Greetings to you, our dearest viewers, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Biblical Insights here on Lumen TV Zambia. A very interesting topic on our table: why Jesus speaks in parables. I am your presenter, Eugene Musoka, and in the studios, I am not alone. I am being joined by Deacon Chisenga Faxon, who is going to teach us more about why Jesus speaks in parables in the Bible. Brother, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, Deacon, to start with, what is a parable?
So, a parable is a story or a narrative that is used, usually used in a symbolic way. In this symbolic way, it talks of moral values. Now, these moral values are given in a life situation. It is given to people using their situation or things that they are able to understand. We can take, for instance, when Jesus talks about the parable of the lost coin or the parable of the lost sheep. So this is more of a metaphor trying to communicate something. But out of that, which Christ presents before the people, is trying to communicate. And in these two examples that I've given, we learn that it is just about the love of God. God who never forsakes his people, God who always shows concern for his own people.
What is a parable meant for?
So, looking at a parable, it is meant mainly for deep reflection, or others would prefer to call it, it is meant for discernment. So it is a situation which is given, which causes people to reflect more on what has been said. And without taking much of time, it will be difficult for people to understand. We also realize that in many parables that Jesus Christ was using, when he taught the people, we are told, like mostly in the Gospel of Matthew, that people did not understand. But when the disciples were alone with Jesus, they would ask him, tell us more about what you meant in that parable. And from there, would hear Jesus now explain it more to them. So in short, we can just say a parable is meant for reflection. It is meant for discernment.
We are hearing the story here. We are hearing Jesus using parables when he is addressing people and other disciples. But did other people use parables during the time of Jesus?
For sure they did. If we look at the time of Jesus, there were many teachers who used parables. Those who are called rabbis, Pharisees, scribes. We understand that this group of people had also followers, but they had a particular way of teaching to their disciples. As they taught, they would use parables such that if there are other people who are present there, they might not there and then get the meaning of what is being discussed. And we can also look at this kind of tradition, which was also used by philosophers. They used to teach their followers as they taught them. Others might not there and then understand. So this is something that was there even before, during the time of Jesus. And during his time, it was also very common for men rabbis to use this kind of teaching.
Deacon, today we have got a scenario where our grandparents will sit us down to tell us stories about maybe the hair and the... Can we call those parables also? Since you said the parable, from what you have explained.
Yes, so we can call that as a parable because in their teaching, there are some moral values. There are also spiritual values. I would give an example where an elderly person would encourage a girl child who's growing to say, avoid going to a particular place. There are dogs, and dogs might beat you there. And when you look at this child, if she doesn't take time to listen and try to understand what the grandmother is saying, she might be quick to respond, or even maybe saying, there at Mr. Chisenga's place, there are no dogs where I go. But in the actual sense, they are only telling her or advising her on how she's living her life, on how she's interacting with other male friends. So there, that can be said to be also a form of a parable, because in it there is a moral teaching that they need to impart on this child.
Okay. Parables necessary in our time today?
They are very necessary. If we look at our life experience, we realize that in most of our communities we have different age groups, and it is when these parables are used, it will be easy for the people to understand, and especially for those that the message is intended for. We can be in a community where we have the young ones, but we also have those elderly who are matured enough. An elder person might come in and maybe make some comments. It might be a teaching reminding those who are elders in that community, but not necessarily for the young ones. The young ones might hear something, they might not pick it there and then. But for the elders, it will be easy for them to pick it up and also know what is being transmitted to them. So in this itself, we find and we also realize that parables are necessary and they help us to grow, but they will also help us to reflect more on particular incidents or the way we are living our lives or the way we are experiencing life. So in all these situations, we'll be able to realize that parables are very necessary as they will help us to listen more.
What are we learning from Jesus teaching in parables?
So the teaching that we are learning from Jesus is that parables will always be in our life experience. And as they come in our life experience, it is time for us now to reflect more. It is not just time for us to respond as we hear certain teachings, as we hear certain things as they come to our lives. So in these parables, it calls for us to be attentive listeners, so that as we listen, we don't only listen to respond, but we'll be able to listen to understand.
Thank you so much, Deacon Chisenga. Your last words before we conclude the program.
So my encouragement to all the viewers is that in our life experience, because we interact with different people, different age groups, it becomes important even for parents as they impart knowledge on their children to also use some sort of parables, such that it will be easy for them to teach those that they intend to teach, but also help those as they grow. Because we realize that every parable in it, there is a moral teaching and moral values that will help us be better Christians.
Thank you so much, Deacon, for sharing with us about why Jesus is speaking in parables in the Bible. Our dearest viewers, that was Deacon Chisenga Faxon from Theology 4 at St. Dominic's Major Seminary, sharing with us why Jesus Christ speaks in parables. I'm sure you, our dearest viewers, have picked one or two things from what we have been discussing today. I was your presenter, Eugene Musoka. See you on the next episode. It's bye for now.